It's one of the most historic parks in all of baseball.
It's the third oldest behind Fenway Park and Wrigley Field.
The largest with a seating capacity of 56,000.
Offering stunning views of downtown skyline and the surrounding mountains.
It even has its own zip code.
And a Pope even held a mass here.
Welcome to Blue Heaven on Earth!
Otherwise known as Dodger Stadium.
So you may have noticed the new face in our intro. This is my nephew Aaron. He's married to my niece Stephanie. She's not a baseball fan, so she chose to stay back at the resort and enjoy a pool day. I'm a little bit jealous, to be honest, but I'm excited to be here at what I think is our 12th Major League ballpark. So as we're walking in, let's talk about getting here and parking. First off, we're here visiting Disneyland this week and have part 1 of our A to Z guide to Disneyland on our channel now, so be sure to check that out. But we have a rental car for this trip and drove up from Anaheim this morning. Traffic in LA was pretty dreadful as we expected, but we still made it here in plenty of time before the gates opened. And if you plan to drive, we highly encourage you to purchase parking in advance. General parking in advance was $30, but if you wait until game day, it's $35. Not a big difference, but having a parking ticket in advance just helps you know which gate to go into. They also have preferred parking that starts at $60.
If you want to save a little money and enjoy uphill hikes, you could also park in lots 13 and 14 for only $5. We hear it's about a 15-minute walk, but we'll save the hiking for our national parks, like we did last September when we went to Acadia National Park. Be sure to check out that video on our channel. Another option is to use services like Uber or the Dodger Stadium Express. This is a free shuttle service from either Union Station or South Bay. It sounded like a good option, but the time schedules were a little bit more limiting than when we were driving. But if that's something you're interested in, information about those shuttles are on the Dodgers website. However you get here, gates open 2.5 hours prior to the game for parking and 2 hours prior for entry into the stadium. Now before we get inside, let's review a few housekeeping items. First up, bags. You can bring a clear plastic bag as long as it's smaller than 12 by 12 by 6. Or you can bring a non-clear clutch or wristlet as long as they're no larger than 5 by 8 by 2. Backpacks and large purses are prohibited, although if you have a diaper bag for a young child, you are allowed to bring it in. Also prohibited are obvious things like weapons and explosives, things like that, but I always get a kick out of reading through the prohibited items list. My favorite so far was Comerica Park in Detroit, which prohibited knitting needles, but the one that made me laugh here was a broom.
So like, is anyone really bringing a broom to a baseball game?
Well, actually, Joyce, if you're up in the series and you're about to win, it's called a complete sweep.
Oh, that makes sense.
You would bring a broom in the past to indicate that we're about to sweep you.
Well, if we're sweeping the series, brooms aren't allowed, so keep them at home, folks.
Now for a quick overview of the outside food and drinks policy.
You are allowed to bring in a factory-sealed, non-alcoholic beverage such as water, soda, tea, or juice, as long as it's in a 1 liter or less non-glass container. You may also bring in an empty refillable water bottle as long as it's not made of glass. There are water refill stations around the park. Outside food is also permitted as long as it's in a clear bag smaller than 12 by 12 by 6. So I guess it really has to fit into your main bag because you're only allowed to bring in the one bag. Dodger Stadium is also a cashless station. Bloop. Bloopers. And Dodger Stadium is also a cashless stadium, so keep those greenbacks at home.
All right, it's time to head inside.
It's showtime.
Showtime.
So while we're heading up to our seats, let's share a little bit about the history of this stadium. So Dodger Stadium opened in 1962, but the story behind the stadium was actually a little bit crazy. So the short story is that the LA Housing Authority began acquiring land in the Chavez Ravine area in the early 1950s. This is the area where the stadium was built, and the land in this area was to be redeveloped as public housing under the National Housing Act of 1949. Now, from what I read, residents were offered buyouts that were well below market value to start making room for the new development. And of course, the offers were increasingly lowered as the sellers stalled. Most ended up selling, but there were a few that held their ground and ultimately lost their land by eminent domain. However, they resisted leaving their property and had to be forcefully removed in 1959 by the LA County Sheriff's Department. Now backing up a little to 1953, Norris Paulson was elected mayor of LA on a platform that included opposition to construction of all new public housing projects. So a public referendum was passed barring all new public housing in LA, at which time the city agreed with the federal government to abandon the public housing project, but to still use the land for public purpose. Fast forward to 1957, when Walter O'Malley, owner of the Dodgers at the time, was looking to leave New York and take the team west. The city agreed to give him the 300 acres of land in exchange for the deed to Wrigley Field in Los Angeles and his commitment to build a new stadium on the land. As you can imagine, there was a lot of political backlash about this trade, and many didn't consider a professional baseball team as public use. Ultimately, it came down to a public vote to stop the land transfer, and it fell short by 25,000 votes. Thus, O'Malley won and was able to build his stadium.
So with every new stadium we visit, we definitely have to get the helmet nachos. If you've watched any of our baseball videos before, you know this is a souvenir that we like to collect, where we'll write down a little memory about the game on the inside of the helmet and keep that in our man cave, Matt's man cave. So Matt wore a Sox baseball hat to the Dodger game because the colors are Dodger colors.
I mean, why not, right?
But I think I have something better for you, Matt.
Oh.
Cover that up right there.
That doesn't really fit.
Yeah, but it looks much better than wearing losers on your head.
No, probably not. So when you're at Dodger Stadium, you have to get the most iconic item on their menu. That is the traditional Dodger dog. This one is grilled. You'll see it is naked, so we gotta take care of that. So you gotta go with ketchup, but you better have more than that if you're from Chicago. Looking good so far. You have sweet relish, which I don't care for, but Joyce does, so I'll put this in my pocket for her for later.
Onions.
Yeah, onions. There we go. Fresh onions. Load it up. And there you have it, traditional Dodger dog without the relish, but we'll put that on for Joyce later.
Looks good.
I cannot think of any less manly thing to do than to eat a hot dog. But here we go.
What's the verdict?
It's a good dog. Granted, beef hot dogs are better. So if you've been following our baseball series for a while, you know we like to throw in a little bit of trivia every now and then. So here's the first one.
The Dodgers originally came from Brooklyn, New York, but they weren't always called the Dodgers. Do you know the name?
And the answer is the Brooklyn Atlantics, founded in 1883. Well, we've made it up to our seats. Now, we usually splurge to be a little closer to the action, but tickets weren't exactly cheap for this one, so this is where we landed. It's a couple of sections up and all the way to the edge of the outfield on the third base line. But not a bad view, and we have a view of the video displays, which are a cool stadium feature as well.
And we are in row L, which is the perfect row because it's the first row underneath the shelter from the sun. So while we have a little sun on our legs, our faces are in the shade, and that makes for a much more pleasant experience in my opinion. And speaking of stadium features, here's a few you may notice while you're here.
Here in the center field turf area, you'll find a logo-shaped cushioned seating and some spinning chairs, so you can have fun getting dizzy before the game, I guess, if you want to. Aaron's going to try them out for us. Another fun feature is you can look down into the bullpen. This is located between the Field 51 section and the left field pavilion. The seats are another defining feature here. You won't find seats that match the team colors like in some stadiums, but instead you'll see a mix of yellow, light orange, turquoise, and sky blue. Why? I don't know. That's a mystery. But that's just what their colors are. Another feature are a couple of kids' playground areas here in both right and left field plazas. These are a great place for kiddos to run around and let out some energy before or during the game. They also have a really cool baseball bat display here in the Field 50 section, and probably one of the largest collections of bobbleheads that I've ever seen here in the Field 51 section. So be sure to walk around and check it out. There's a lot of neat things to look at.
Now, the Dodgers were one of the first teams to have an African American player. Do you know who it is? The answer is right behind me. It's Jackie Robinson.
So the Dodgers signed Jackie in 1947, and you can see the statue here in Centerfield Plaza, along with Sandy Koufax, who is widely regarded as one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history. And fun fact about Jackie, his uniform number 42 has been retired league-wide. You usually see the number hanging out on the wall on most ballparks that you visit, so watch for it at your next stop to the ballpark.
In the home of the brave.
Okay, that's a wrap here at Dodger Stadium. I did confirm this was our 12th stadium, and not a bad one. I had a really good time here. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it is a very nice stadium. For the age, everything seemed well up to date.
Yeah.
A lot of different food options. That was kind of crazy. So
yeah, some good
obviously
stuff.
big Asian and Japanese influence here. Otane, they have all the different players. They had a Korean dog that looked interesting, had mayonnaise on it.
Yeah.
A ton of different helmet nachos and fried helmets and ice cream helmets.
Fried helmets? Fries in a helmet.
Fries in a helmet. Yeah, it was very good. It was a good time. We had seats in the shade, which helped, so it wasn't too muggy out. But yeah,
great game.
Sounds like we're missing an incredible comeback, however, because we thought we'd try to beat some traffic, but that is what it is.
That's right. Trying to get ahead of LA traffic. As we were walking out, it sounded like they had another home run. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll win. It is the bottom of the 7th right now, so we're gonna skedaddle on out of here. But I hope you enjoyed watching our tour here of Dodger Stadium. If you liked this video, if you found it enjoyable, if you learned anything, give us a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. And thanks for watching.
See ya.
We'll see you next time. Bye.